there anything more annoying than placing down conveyor belts and conveyor lifts? I don't know about you, but as much as I love this game, that's probably the only fault it has. All of these connections, the bigger the factory, the more you have to make, and it takes so long. It's kind of nightmarish when you think about it. It really does end up looking nice, it really ends up working, but it's the most tiresome aspect of all. As you can see here, I've connected everything up between the sandwich layers, and yeah, all of this took me like 3 days just because I needed to make sure everything fit together. Had to make sure everything was nice and coordinated, all the right lifts, all the connections. It's tedious. It's tedious. It's the only thing I really don't like about this game, but that's really not much considering I love this game to death. Anywho, let's get on with the episode. Hi there, my name is TheTrueNev, I'm the only me there is, and welcome back to the Satisfactory non-series, episode 22 this time. Whereas I'm sure as you've noticed by the title of the video, no, we didn't continue the nuclear pipeline today, because for this episode, I needed to brainstorm. I needed to brainstorm to actually gather my ideas, because I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I didn't actually plan any of this out. Or rather, I had some general, loose, very vague ideas of how I wanted this factory layout to be. Like, I knew I wanted the processing center right in front of the waterfall. I knew I wanted my manufacturers here making the fuel rods, and I knew I wanted my array of cooling towers. But regarding everything else, it's been as most of my factories always have been, largely improvised. I plan things out very vaguely in my head, try to make it fit together in the end like some kind of puzzle, and yeah, it sort of works out, but a lot of times it's just me winging it. Like this entire setup for all the materials for the actual fuel rods, all improvised. The layout, improvised. The train station, completely improvised. That just came to me suddenly like, hey, I need these materials, let's bring them in. The way the train station connects, improvised. This plastic factory, improvised. So I'm mentioning this because before I can continue with the next and perhaps final step of the nuclear pipeline, I want to get through the next milestone. I want to unlock leading edge production, and for that I need to start making fused modular frames. And that will be made somewhere in this general vicinity. As you can see, there's quite a few nodes here that I dotted out in my exploration: pure limestone, pure iron, pure copper. A lot of things that I can use to actually make the endgame things, because part of my goal here isn't just to make a nuclear power plant, it's also to produce all the endgame items. All the items needed for the last space elevator tier. So while I figure out what I want to do in this place, how I want to set up the next platform, because all those endgame items really do take up a lot of space and a lot of factories, I need to plan this out well, at least in order to mesh in the few vague ideas I had with the rest of the factory. And so a thought came to me. I could take the time to recharge my creative batteries and kinda kill two birds with one stone if I go exploring a little. Because see, in order to get the endgame items, I actually require a couple of alternative recipes that I don't have, and I don't have any hard drives to actually unlock them. So exploration is actually great, because I can go search for some drop pods, which will give me hard drives. I kill two birds with one stone, and also get to think about how I want to build it. But of course, the episode probably won't end there. Again, all this is impromptu, like always. I'm really just thinking of exploring to get a few drop pods, and then maybe end the episode by actually setting down a platform to start making the fused modular frames. The good thing about exploring will be that I won't actually be serious about it. I won't be looking for a, let's make a new factory out here. No. Instead, I just kind of want to find the drop pods, which I know there have to be some around here. I think I once saw one in this area. And while I'm at it, I might as well, place down some power poles, kill a few enemies, and also maybe dot out a few of the nodes, like that one over there, or that one, or that one. So yeah, on all this should be a pretty lax episode, mostly exploration based. And so I went to get lost in the woods for about 3 hours. I started my journey here, in the area between my petrochemical factory and my supercomputer factory in Titan Forest. Now, the idea I had in mind and the general area I would explore, or the general path I would take, would be the same as always. Taking natural paths, finding ways to get places without the use of jetpack or even the running blades. And before you ask, no, this map is not revealed because I've already been here, but because, the higher you go in the game, and goodness me, I've gone pretty high with those towers, the more the map is revealed against your wishes. But anywho, the area I would be exploring would be this one, and the idea would be just that. To see what I can find along the way. Mainly drop pods would be what I'd be looking for, but anything else along the way would also be pretty good. And right off the bat, in the area where I know there's a drop pod, I discovered 2 geysers. I wasted no time in placing down 2 generators, with the idea of getting down there eventually to find a way to connect them up. Along the way, I was jumped by these 2 fools, but they quickly met their deaths. I also spotted the flying manta ray, which was pretty cool. It's been a long time since I last saw him. As with my other exploratory adventures, this one too involved placing down power poles to already create a sort of network that I could work with in the future. Sure enough, it doubled the time I would take, but future me would definitely appreciate it. At one point, I found the path down. It seemed natural enough, and I actually fell. Did not mean to fall, but I thought I could maybe parkour my way back up. However, before I even did that, I thought, well, now that I'm down here, let's get that drop pod and let's connect those geysers. And maybe there's a different path out the back. The drop pod was guarded by an alpha spitter. I quickly took care of him. And then as I started connecting things up, I made my way west, hoping to find a natural path up, and I didn't, but I did find another geyser. I placed down the third generator and traced my steps back to the parkour area. After a few tries, I made my way back up and kept going. And if there's two things I gotta mention right now, it's that first, honestly, I'm kinda sad that I didn't get footage of this area before Update 5, simply because I can't really appreciate all the little changes that were made to this area, but regardless, I'm certain that it didn't look anywhere near as good as it does now. I mean, look at all this shrubbery. It's beautiful. And frankly, it feels like not enough love goes into the environment and the world in this game. The artists and developers that shaped this game really crafted a beautiful world. And even if it plays great and the game is really just about the factories, again, it just feels like not enough love goes towards it. So thanks for such a commendable job, artists and designers and everybody involved in making this world. And the other thing I gotta mention is that I won't be showing that much of the journey because, let's face it, this is something we've done before. It's the same old song and dance. I go to a place, I kill everything along the way, I find things, and I go back. So really it's just about dotting out a few important things. All while I brainstormed, all while I got lost. As I continued tracing my path, I found yet another drop pod, and a few nodes here and there. I made note of them and placed down some beacons, and kept going. At one point, I stopped to admire my computer factory from this higher angle, both to get my bearings and for you to understand sort of where I was in time and space. And then, shortly after finding my third drop pod, this happened. I swear, and I keep saying this, they're doing it on purpose. These guys, they just know when to pop up at the worst possible times. That's right, I was just running, minding my own business, jumping around when suddenly a doggo popped out from the underbrush. And these guys, I tell you, they don't like to see you run or jump. So the moment that happens, the moment you turn your back, the moment you're not being careful enough, bam! They run away, and then I had to wait like 10 minutes for him to pop up again somewhere, quietly sneak up to him, give him the fruit, and then tame him. I gotta say, that's just one of the most annoying aspects. Why are they so afraid of you? I don't know. And I love the doggos to death, but really, it's just so annoying. It's just so annoying seeing them run away. Not long after that, I made my way to a wonderful clearing where there were quite a few pure iron nodes, and limestone and copper nodes, and also another doggo. This one almost ran away, but I saw him first. I snuck up to him before he saw me, tamed him, and then, kept going. As I kept tracing my path, kept moving forward very nearly along the cliff edge, I found yet another geyser spot and placed down my fourth generator. I'm so glad I brought the materials for it. I knew there were some geyser spots, but I didn't know there were that many. And then near the end of the 2 hours, I found my way to, guess where? That's right, pretty much the area where, in my previous playthrough, the pyramid cake was. Yes, I'd somehow made my way to just near the edge of the rocky desert, and it's at this point that I gotta mention that it was kind of my plan all along. I didn't want to go too far, I still don't want to go into rocky desert proper, nor the red jungle, and I had a fairly different idea of how I wanted this video to end, but as soon as I got here, and having seen all that I'd seen, gotten all I'd gotten, I changed my objective and made it so that, hey, let's just make this my sort of border for now, so that later if I want to explore, I know that this is the edge. No rocky desert, no red jungle, at most the crater fields, which is where I want to go next, but that's it, at least for now. And having reached this far, I then decided to turn around and start my way back, this time down south, so that I'd end up near the lake, near my petrochemicals factory. But of course not before dotting out the resource nodes in this area, and that's when I saw him, this doggo. Was he always here? That's the question I have. Was he always here? Because, okay, fair enough. In the previous playthrough, I wasn't really aware of the doggos, but did I ever really just miss him like that? But anyway, third doggo found, tamed, and I moved on. It's worth noting that along all this path, I didn't want to stray too far from it, so I did find a couple of caves that were really nice, and I jotted down where they were to later come back to them. And so 3 hours later, I'd finally made it back to my petrochemicals factory with the spoils of my adventure. Those spoils being 80 carapaces, 38 organs, 20 blue slugs, 5 yellow slugs, and most important of all, 8 hard drives. With the brainstorming session done, having cleared all the clutter in my brain, I got to work, starting at the entrance to the swamp factory, because that was always going to be my pivot point. I had always thought of making it from there and then expanding out. It just didn't really work out that way, but in order to move forward, I needed to do this. So after expanding the foundations a bit and toying with some ideas, I eventually got to this. including this massive monstrosity of concrete foundations, which at the time I hadn't really planned out how I would distribute the factories, but I knew that I needed a lot, and I mean a lot of space, so I'm really glad I had made it this big. At this point in time, it was starting to take shape, and I thought it was beautiful, but you've seen nothing yet. And yet, before I actually got to building anything, I needed one last thing. Check the requirements for the fused modular frames and realized I need nitrogen, and I think there's nitrogen near me. So I scanned my area, found some nitrogen fairly close to my swamp plastic factory, went there, found a doggo. He did not surprise me. I locked him up, kept going. I admired the weird bulbous plant, placed down my well pressurizer, went back, and then I got lost once again, but this time in my mind, as I started building like a madman, never stopping until... And so we arrive at this beautiful, chaotic, yet organized mess. And I do mean organized mess quite literally, because for the first time ever since I started playing Satisfactory, I've decided to employ the use of hallways and rooms to separate different factories. So for example, as you can see here, this black line painted in the foundation would be a hallway, and the rooms are obviously everything in between. And the rooms are literally just for specific things. So for example, this row here, which was the first one I placed down, will be where steel ingots are made. These will then go under the sandwich layer into some of the next rooms, like this large swath of constructors here that will be making steel pipes, or those little three at the back that are making steel beams. And looking at the grand scale of this, I do feel that I bit off way more than I could chew, but despite kind of regretting it in the moment, I don't regret it anymore because sure, in the short term, it may have seemed like a lot, and it may have delayed this episode quite a lot, as you can see, but in the end, I feel like it'll be worth it for future episodes, to make them a little shorter, a little bit more bite-sized, and also just let me explain things a bit better later on. I won't be explaining everything in this episode, it's way too much to fit in right now, and it doesn't even matter that much because I'm imploring you right now to ignore basically everything you see and just focus on these 5 blenders right here. Because these 5 blenders are the ones that will be making the fused modular frames in order to unlock leading edge production. Everything else that you see here will be basically to make those 4 objects to complete phase 4 in the space elevator. This is my endgame factory, and honestly I like the way it's coming out. I love that it's been coming together, that the vision actually makes sense to me, and more than anything, that everything has worked out quite nicely. I planned the space out accordingly, everything fits, and even if it doesn't, well, I've got vertical space to expand upon. Not that the game likes it very much because it's lagging quite a bit. Oh dear, hold on, I'm falling. And also, as you can see, nothing is actually plugged in. I don't have any conveyor belts. I literally just finished placing down the last of the factories. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss anything, and I'm pretty sure the numbers all lined up, which is exactly why I didn't want to stop. Once I started, I had the math in my head, and I said, you know what? If I stop here, I'm going to forget it, and then I'm going to regret it even more. So let's just keep going. So yeah, I love the way it's coming out. I really, really love it. I love how organized everything is. And let's just see how it turns out in the end. For now though, I'm going to plug in these blenders, I'm going to plug everything in that's related to these blenders, I'm going to get the fused modular frames, and we're going to get leading edge production. But all of that for next time. For now, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, then you know what to do. But as always, I'm the only me, so you be the only you. See you in the next episode.